Hello. So today we are discussing chapter 14 of American Baby by Gabrielle Glaser. This chapter is titled You Are a Man, and it's all about David slash Stephen
Yeah.
and him maturing into a teenager.
Yeah. Oh, and Sarah, guess what? I think the votes are in for the
Oh yes,
Patreon.
yes. We have a book.
Yeah. We have a book. We're going to be doing The Baby Thief, all about the Georgetown era. It's by
Yes, the
Barbara.
untold
Yes.
story of Georgia Tan, the
Barbara
baby
Bazant.
seller who corrupted adoption.
Yes. Barbara Raymond. How do you say her middle name? Barbara Bazant Raymond, I think.
Is the
So
Z silent? I don't know.
I don't know either, but we'll figure it
Yep.
out and we're
Or
excited to read
we
it.
tallied up the votes. And then a close second was The Girls Who Went Away, which my mom sent
Mhm.
to us. So
Yes.
we will get to that book as well at some point.
Yeah.
But yes,
Yeah.
The Baby Thief. So when everyone is listening, order your book.
Yeah, you have just a couple weeks.
Yep.
All right. Well, digging into You're a Man. You are a man. It's sad, David. David had a lot of anger stuff come out,
Mm-hmm.
mostly against his adopted
Against
mother.
that, against Esther. Yeah. And also, so he did a lot of self-soothing with food,
Yeah.
and
Neater.
which then really triggered Esther, who would push him to eat healthier, and just this constant battle.
Constant food battle where I
Mhm.
was reading it thinking, oh God, it's so stressful
Like,
for
stop, don't do that. That's the worst thing
right.
you can do.
And they battled. He still was close to his father,
Hmm.
his adopted father. He really looked up to him, found out he was a rabbi. Didn't know he's a rabbi. His father wasn't a braggart or anything like that. And then the sad part that happens for David is he loses his biological father. I mean,
Yeah,
his adoptive father. Mm-hmm.
they had gone to Israel to try to get a second opinion about his heart.
Yeah.
And he died before they could get the surgery. So, and
That kind
David
of,
was not
yeah.
there. So really he lost the person he felt
The
the
one
closest to.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah. He had an interesting life. I mean, he really ended up, he went to Israel, lived there, was,
Joined the army.
yeah.
But they didn't put him because of
Yeah.
weight and a few other things. They put him more on the administrative side
Yeah. He
of
was
joining the
starting to already
service.
have the diabetes from downing, and he was downing Cokes all the time. I was like reading it thinking, oh
Yes,
God,
right. The diabetes. Yes.
because isn't it originally
Like he
the
had an
diabetes?
unquenching
Yes.
thirst, which he would then, because of diabetes, which he would then try to quench his thirst with Coca-Cola.
Uh-huh.
The absolute worst thing you can do.
I mean, I felt
Like
bad
the
for
worst thing you
yes, the
can
worst thing you could do.
do.
And he
Maybe
was
Mountain Dew would be worse, but
and he ends up having the thing that I thought was beautiful about him is he has this beautiful voice. He was a
Mhm.
cantor and really chose like his music was his thing and ends up in Portland so he could be the big fish in a small pond as a
But I
cantor,
thought what
right?
was interesting prior to that, kind of following in
Mhm.
his in George's
Yes.
footsteps, right, is that he got offered by the Rangers to be
I
a
know.
goalie, a hockey goalie, because he was so talented. And he thought, no, I should use my other,
Yeah,
like
he
it would
turned it
disappoint
down.
Esther because he didn't want to disappoint Esther.
He
So he
turned down
turned
being
it
a
down.
hockey goalie for the Rangers
Right.
to not disappoint his
And
adopted mom.
George had been a baseball
Yeah.
player.
I thought,
Yeah.
yeah, it was the genetics there, right? Because
Hmm.
his adopted dad was not athletic at all.
Right. At all.
No. And isn't Portland, I'm just remembering, is it the start of the book? That's where she met David, right? Up in
I
Oregon.
believe so. I believe
That's
so.
how I ended up in, yeah.
I thought it was, how he and Esther lived in the same house, but
Yeah.
both grieving to themselves. Like she
That was,
really fell apart.
yeah.
She did
Yeah.
not really know how to live without her husband.
No, he did everything
And
that
she never found that inner strength, right? Like
she
you can
never
rise to the
did.
challenge or you can fall apart. And Esther really fell apart.
she fell apart, and he was pretty
Mhm.
young, 56. That always freaks me out because we're in our
I know.
50s when the father died, the adopted father. And so she was a mess. And what ended up kind of healing he and his adopted mother was she married another guy that he really liked,
Yes.
which
Really liked him,
helped.
but then they moved
Yeah,
to Australia. So
right.
he no longer had, his father figures just kept leaving.
Yeah, he was really yeah, kind of a drift, as many adoptees are. I mean, she highlights it
Mhm.
very well. It was, and also it gets sad. His adopted mom starts to pass. He did start to look, right? Am I wrong? Did I read ahead? No, didn't he start to think about looking?
Yes, he started to think about it.
Okay,
He'd
yeah,
always been wondering.
right. And he was dating, and he thought about looking, and then life started to happen. You get too busy. It
Mhm.
seemed too hard. He read about sites you could go on, probably Alma and different, and he started to
Right.
get.
It was fine,
Mhm.
was the time that Alma was
I was
there.
I was thinking how sad though, because he was starting to want to look then, and she had been looking so desperately. And this is about
Mhm.
the same time when she was
That she gave up.
that she gave up at the Louise Wise agency,
Yes.
and she didn't know.
Right around the same time. Exactly.
They get into that part where Louise Wise closed down. That's the part that they closed the agency, right? Am I wrong? I think so. Did
Did
I
you
read
read
ahead?
ahead?
I don't think so.
I think you might have
Maybe I did. I
I
didn't
think you
mean to
did
read.
because
Oh,
wait, here,
yes.
put it on pause for a sec. Yep. So he would tell his friends that oh, wait, hold on, pause it again. Yeah, so he and Esther, went through Shiva and all the mourning and Esther they stayed in Esther stayed in Israel and then David went back to Toronto to finish
High school.
university. Yeah. Finish high school in Canada.
Mhm.
Then he ends up coming back to Israel to go to the university there. And Esther got remarried. The thing was, living there, kind of having their separate grief.
Yeah, they were really separated with that.
Hmm.
I sort of like that he came back to Canada and had, those were happy times for him, not living with the family and having like his own like thing with his friends and everything. But then he had the anger would pop up and he would go off on people, which she would dabble in because he must have had like he was really great at sports and a guy's guy, but if somebody didn't do something right, he was
Right. He was
big temper.
big temper. That anger, a lot of anger
Bottled
inside,
anger.
which is common, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm completely lost, Louise. And they mourned their mourning processes were so different, like they did it alone together, right? Like
Yeah.
Esther Esther really fell apart,
Just
did not
completely.
rise to the occasion
No.
to help David through it, right?
No,
She
she was
was
like a
in her
empty.
own grief. Like there was nothing.
And he had his was based in humor and anger
Mhm.
and
He dealt with it with yes,
food.
food.
Food,
Food.
humor, and anger, which I could see is just that pushing it all down. And
Yeah.
then she left, right? I think then she
After high
leaves.
school, like I mean, she
Mhm,
stayed through his high school. He went to University of Toronto. She went to Israel to be with her sister.
mhm.
Um, and then it was funny how he attended that hockey camp, right? And
Yeah,
he was offered by the Rangers to be a goalie, and he turned it down,
it's
thinking it
great.
would disappoint
Yeah.
Esther.
He's like an incredible hockey player, just at camp, and they're like, "Come on and play for the Rangers,"
Right.
which
But
is like
like
a boy's dream, a young
yeah,
man's
and
dream.
but also following in George, his
Yeah,
biological father's footsteps with sports and athleticism and also
yeah,
following in the fact that he didn't do it and
that he didn't do it.
nor did George.
Yeah. That I know the correlations are fascinating. the back and forth of what's going on with their lives and who he is. It's like you just want them to know each other to
Mhm.
talk about this stuff. Yeah.
Then he goes to Israel,
Mhm.
joins the army, even though the diabetes
Yeah,
kept him from really active. He was more on the administrative side.
he had diabetes, drinking all the Cokes.
One thing I didn't know is that you can be that if you have a Jewish grandparent, you can
Yeah.
get Israeli citizenship. I
Yeah.
never knew that.
I didn't either. That's actually something I learned. I always thought you had to be born in Israel.
Right. No.
Yeah,
No.
it's more about the heritage. He also was blind a little bit, which I thought
Well, the
from
diabetes
the
made him
diabetes, right?
temporarily
Oh, is
blind,
it
and then
temporarily?
temporarily blind. Yeah.
Yeah, because I wondered how he was like continuing on with school and all of that.
Yeah, it was just a temporary blindness from the diabetes, from all those giant Cokes he would drink
Yeah.
to quench his thirst.
And he loved his that's kind of where he came into his own. He loved his guy thing. It was Gilad, is that how you say it?
Yeah, so he joined this group, an Israeli group, that kind of became a brotherhood for him.
Yeah,
Pretty far
brotherhood.
right. Pretty far.
Yeah.
He was pretty far right. His roommate was pretty far left, and they just
Yeah.
decided not to
Talk
talk
about it.
politics. And
And then
and it
he had a longing in how I kind of read into that is he so needed to belong to something like an
mhm,
organization, like he was looking to belong and lead, right? It's like, I feel like a lot of adoptees in general kind of go through that, chameleon thing, like
right.
the searching.
Yeah, and his life, it ends with him saying kind of his life is filling up, and his Gilad operated like a tight-knit family, nobody questioned anybody's motives. His singing was becoming renowned.
Mm.
And his adoption in Israel was no secret. And his male friends believed that it was nothing he thought about. So because he acted tough, right?
Yeah.
But when he was with his female friends, he would
Mhm.
confide in them that he hoped to find his birth mother.
But he didn't want to disappoint Esther,
Didn't want to disappoint Esther.
which is kind of just the story of adoptees.
Mm-hmm. The story of adoptees taking care of other feelings.
Yeah.
In a way, though, it is taking care of our own, because you think
Yeah.
about the fear is that our adoptive parents will get upset and
Reject.
leave. So
Yes.
therefore, it is kind of like, oh, we have to keep ourselves safe.
Yeah,
Um,
everything's safe. There was something that was said to me yesterday. I'm trying to remember that and we've talked about this in any kind of trauma, even in the hands of something bad, you'll cling to the safe.
mhm.
Like whatever it is, an abuser or fear of being left, you'll still you won't go on a limb because it's
Well, the
better, even
devil,
if it's bad.
right?
The
It's
devil,
the devil,
Hmm.
which also, to conclude this chapter, what was especially poignant is David was around the age of the time when Margaret was on
Oh.
the stoop of Louise Weiss,
Yes.
and they
Begging.
just shut her out. And
They
that was
shut
kind of when she was like, all right, well, there's nothing I can do. I've done everything I can. Right around the time he started thinking about it. So
all the years they could have had together.
I know.
It's breaking. Well,
Yeah. Well, we'll see you in a few minutes with
Rivi.
Rivi. Yes.
Okay, see you soon.
See you soon.